Forgive me if I sound angry, because I am angry. As a medical negligence lawyer, I'm probably the most unlikely of allies for junior doctors in a contract dispute with the government, let's face it. But having watched this dispute unfold over weeks and then months and then more months, I came to the conclusion that it was much more than just a contract dispute. The way in which the government has treated the junior doctors is so unjust, it's so manifestly unfair, that I believe the government is now challenging basic principles such as honesty and justice and integrity and fairness, and that's why I'm standing here today with the junior doctors. Mr. Hunt's conduct in this matter has made this dispute about lies versus truth, about spin versus facts, and right versus wrong. I've said this before, and I'll say it again this evening. When a medical negligence lawyer crosses the courtroom floor to stand shoulder to shoulder with junior doctors in a contract dispute with the government, you'd be bloody sure that a serious miscarriage of justice is about to take place in the UK today. Because of government spin, a media manipulation, a misrepresentation of facts, the public has been left completely bewildered about what this dispute is actually about. And I suspect that's what the government has intended. So let's try and clear up a few facts, shall we? Mr. Hunt and the government has repeatedly said that the BMA refuses to negotiate with them. The government blames the BMA for the stalemate which exists and blames them for the point that we've reached today. That's wholly untrue, it's completely misleading, and if Mr. Hunt was spinning this web in a courtroom, a judge would be liable to throw him in jail. Only a week ago, Mr. Hunt tweeted no preconditions. He immediately followed it up by saying that he reserved the right to impose the manifesto's 7-day service if an agreement couldn't be reached. What Mr. Hunt is doing is trying to impose and enforce, not negotiate, impose and enforce an unfair contract, a contract that is unsafe for both doctors and patients. That's not a negotiation. It's bloody bullying. It really is. You don't turn up to a negotiation and say, this is what I want. I don't care how hard you work. I don't care how many hours you do. I don't care that you save lives. I don't care how unfair and unsafe you think this contract is. If you don't accept my terms, I'm going to impose them on you anyway. That's not a negotiation. You cannot negotiate on something that's non-negotiable. And that is not how we do things in this country. That's why I'm standing here today. If Mr. Hunt and his government want to use tactics of intimidation and bullying, then Mr. Hunt should vacate to a country that appreciates those sorts of tactics. It's not how we do things. It's not how we do things in this country. The BMA and Johan Malawana have acted throughout this dispute with honesty and integrity and humility. And you know what? That's backfired on them. It's backfired on you. Because if your opponent is someone who will do anything and say anything to get what he wants, if you're so polite and kind and generous as you guys are, you risk not getting your point across to the public. And I think that's what's happened here. The public needs to understand the bullying and the intimidation that's been going on, and that point hasn't been made forcefully enough. I'm sorry, I'm really angry, okay? I'm bloody angry. You know, everybody in the UK should be bloody angry. Jeremy Hunt thinks he can bully the BMA. He thinks he can bully junior doctors. He thinks he can bully all of you because you are kind and you are generous, and he thinks you won't fight back, but today has shown you bloody well will fight back, and I'll fight back with you. dispute has never been about pay. It's always been about patient safety. It's the government that's made it about pay, so if the government wants to make it about pay, well, let's have a look at that. How would any one of you feel if your boss rocked into the office on a Monday morning and smugly said, I don't care how hard you work, I don't care how many hours you do, I don't care if you save lives every day of the week. I'm now going to make Saturday, Friday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. is now the afternoon. I'm going to change the definition of anti-social hours to social hours. And if you don't like it, you can bloody well lump it. What would anybody be doing in this situation? And why doesn't the public understand that? That's why I'm here today. I got so fed up with what I was reading in the press, watching on the television. You know, the public has to understand what is happening here. An 11% pay rise. Well, I'm sorry, but after you've taken away the extra that the junior doctors are getting for working anti-social hours, because you've unilaterally decided anti-social hours are no longer social hours, they're getting a pay cut. And to spin a pay rise to spin a pay cut as a pay rise to junior doctors is an insult to junior doctors and the intelligence of the British public. It's got to stop. The public has to understand this is not a pay rise, it is a pay cut. I saw quite recently, I think Jeremy Hunt was saying that, well, all I'm doing is bringing junior doctors in line with a 7-day rota that we see airline pilots working and we see the police working. Well, that sounds fine. But what he's not saying is that no one's asking the police and airline pilots to take a bloody pay cut and do longer hours for less pay. What do you think airline pilots and the police would be doing right now if Jeremy Hunt was trying to impose his contract on them? What sort of message would they be sending back? The same message that you are. Junior doctors don't want to strike. They've been forced to this by the government's conduct, by misrepresentation of facts and media spin and frustration. And I understand their anger. I've got a daughter who's going to be 16 in January, and I look at her and I think, well, how would I feel if someone was bullying my daughter in this way? I'd like to think that someone would stand up and fight for her. And that's why I'm here for you today. It doesn't matter I'm a medical negligence lawyer. It doesn't matter what discipline we specialise in. My belief is that lawyers should be the guardians of justice in the UK, whatever their discipline is. And when they recognise injustice occurring, then they should stand up and they should fight it. And that's what I'm doing for you. That's why I'm here today. And you might say to yourself, well, can't get any worse, can it? I'm afraid it does. It does get worse. Because what Mr. Hunt has done is he's swanned around saying, well, there's this report that appeared in the British Medical Journal, and it says we've got 11,000 excess deaths every year because we don't staff our hospitals properly at weekend. But what he doesn't say is that the same report says it would be rash and misleading to assume those deaths were avoidable. Well, what part of rash and misleading didn't Jeremy Hunt understand? What didn't he get? I mean, there are one of two explanations here, isn't there? One explanation is that our health, they're both equally bad, but one explanation is that our health secretary is so intellectually challenged, he can't understand what the report is saying. The other possibility is that he's deliberately misquoted it for political gain. And I'll leave you all to make up your own mind which it is, but they're both equally bad. I had a call from a doctor about a week ago, and he said to me, do you know what, Peter? He said, I had an elderly patient that fell over on a Saturday and broke her hip. Did she call an ambulance? No, she didn't. She crawled to bed and stayed in her bedroom over the weekend in agony before calling an ambulance on a Monday. And she did that because she wrongly believed, because of what Jeremy Hunt had said, that she had a greater chance of dying if she went to hospital at the weekend. We saw a report a couple of weeks ago that suggested that 2 deaths might even be associated with what we're now calling the Hunt effect. You see, I appreciate that there was a laugh there, but this is no laughing matter. Think about it. patients could be dying, patients could be suffering in agony at home because of the Hunt effect. What do you think would happen to Mr. Hunt if he was the chief executive of a hospital trust, and that chief executive had deliberately misquoted a report to the point that patients did not come into hospital at the weekend because they wrongly believed there was a chance they might die? And they turn up on a Monday and it's too late to save their lives and they die. What would happen to that chief executive? Well, I tell you what I think would happen to him. I think he would be on the tail end of a gross negligence manslaughter charge. And I think the hospital trust would be on the tail end of a corporate manslaughter charge. So how long are we going to let Mr. Hunt hide behind parliamentary privilege and immunity? How long are we going to tolerate this kind of a situation in this country? Can it get any worse than that? It does get worse, because what Mr. Hunt also wants to do is remove safeguards from junior doctors' contracts that prevent employers from making them work excessively long hours. Now, I'm a medical negligence lawyer, so trust me when I say tired and exhausted doctors make mistakes, and patients can be seriously injured and they can die, okay? But this isn't just about patient safety, it's about doctor safety as well. It's about doctor safety. I spoke to a doctor a couple of weeks ago, and he said to me that he knew 2 junior doctor colleagues that had been killed in road traffic accidents driving home after excessively long shifts. This is about doctor safety as well as patient safety. The press has got to be more responsible in its reporting of what is happening. Because if the press is not more responsible, then patients will die and patients will be seriously injured. Again, forgive me, I'm really angry about this. Everybody in the country should be angry right now. The press has got to be more responsible. Militant doctors. You know, who the hell came up with militant doctors? Doctors, they spend their lives caring for patients, saving patients' lives. It's their vocation. Calling a doctor militant is like calling Mary Poppins Al Capone. It's bloody stupid. I grew up in a UK where words like truth and honesty and integrity and courage and justice, they meant something. Okay, these words meant something. People admired those words. And when I became a lawyer, I wanted to uphold those sorts of principles. What has become of us as a nation when an MP can misquote reports, use media spin, turn us against each other and our junior doctors? What kind of a country have we become when that happens? This is a chance for every one of us in this country to stand shoulder to shoulder with our junior doctors and send a message back to Jeremy Hunt and back to this government. And that message is, we will not tolerate intimidation. We will not tolerate bullying. That's not how we do things in this country. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.